So one common question any fan has, I'm sure, since they see this whole season, that's SEA3ON, pop up when it comes to Sonic and everything. If they're researching Sonic or whatever, and then they see things like season animated or team season connected along with Sonic's name. I'm sure some fans are wondering what that is. Well, being a fan of Sonic since almost the beginning, I can kind of tell you what it is. And pretty much I've talked about it several times over, and there have been others that have talked about it. But basically what season is, or season animated is, or team season is basically it's a fan-oriented project. Yes, it's a fan-funded oriented project. That is indeed true. But it's a project that, has been a long time in the making. And what I mean by a long time in the making is the fact that, all of us fans of the original Sonic Sea3on cartoon, which, of course is right here, where this is my unopened copy that I've had. But a lot of us that have been a fan of this show, have always been wondering, what the third season would have been like. I mean, yeah, Ben Hurst, when he was alive, God rest his soul, Ben Hurst had a lot of ideas, and a lot of those ideas he actually talked about in an interview he did for the 4th disc on the complete series set for the show. And by taking a lot of those ideas that he talked about, in that interview, and even prior, because he always was back and forth with the fan base, online, especially when Fans United for Sat.am and other sites started to, pop up like Sonic Stadium, Sonic HQ, Sonic Retro, you name it. He would basically, communicate with the fans, and he would, go back and forth with them on ideas he wanted to make a reality when it came to a potential third season. Now, Ben said in the interview he did for the Shout Factory set, which that set it was distributed by Shout Factory. What Ben basically said in an interview was any plans that, he and the creative team had for the third season were pretty much shelved indefinitely. And the reason they were shelved indefinitely is because ABC had some new corporate, I wouldn't say corporate, well, yeah, basically corporate, but new heads of their children's division, the Saturday morning animated division and all that coming in. And Sonic ended up being one of the many shows that they took off the slate. They basically axed, off the schedule because it didn't fit the criteria they were going after, the directive or the direction they were going in. And this was about a year or so prior to the purchase by Disney, which brought ABC into the family of brands and networks. Now with that said, basically, this caused Ben Hurst to have to, not only find other work, but on the side kind of work out a way to not only get the third season up and running, but potentially along with maybe Deke Entertainment, because I think Deke Entertainment and Sega, for a time, wanted to get the show back up and going. Basically, they would try to, in my opinion, try to shop the show around. Try to shop it to a new network that would allow them to get that third season off the ground, in my opinion. And basically what happened, I guess as a constellation, was the show ended up on the USA Network. Now, unfortunately, its appearance on the USA Network was one of controversy because a lot of the episodes of season 1, of both seasons, I should say, were essentially butchered. They were edited down due to time restraints. Like, with Doomsday Project, there was like a few extra minutes of scenes cut out that, made, certain scenes look a little awkward. Like the transitions were a little off. Like, there's a scene when Sonic's planting the bombs on the diamond glass dome of the Doomsday Project, and they kind of, basically, how can I say this? They kind of basically cut out the scene where I think he gets Nicole from Sally or something. I'm not really sure. But they cut out, a significant chunk of scenes, not just with Doomsday Project, but with all the episodes of both seasons. And again, it was all due to time restraints. And a lot of fans felt like, well, if you're going to have this on your network, why would you want to, edit it down? Why would you want to butcher it? So the run on USA, wasn't the best run. The only shining light that came out of it was as I put it, the hybrid Sonic Christmas Blast special, which was, in a sense, as I mentioned, a hybrid of elements from adventures, basically animation-wise, design-wise at times, character-wise, and, the blending of the elements, name-wise, character-wise, when it comes to Sally's appearance, from Sea3on. So that was the only shining light that came out of it. But any other opportunity for the show to continue, maybe with the third season, was shot down, because I think, Sega and Dick Entertainment saw that what USA had done was, yeah, they were cool with airing the show, but they had edited it down. They had chopped it down, and that didn't sit well, not just with fans, but apparently Sega and Dick Entertainment. So after that, instead of continuously pursuing another option to get it off the ground, which he did. He looked at potentially doing a movie that would wrap it up, maybe doing some kind of like miniseries. He looked at all different options from what I understand. He even worked with, for a time with Ken Penders, before Ken Penders, basically, as some fans put it, stabbed him in the back and took the idea for his own to present to, certain distributors and all that. So, he still tried to, even in his final days, still tried to get the show, or that third season, up and running. He really did. Even when he was working as a story writer for Sonic Underground, he tried to keep getting season 3 up and going. And I think maybe, in my opinion, he looked at Sonic Underground as maybe that jumping off point that would make that happen. But apparently it didn't. Because like Sonic Sea3on, Sonic Underground ended basically on a cliffhanger, on a finale that, didn't feel like a finale. It just felt like a regular episode. So, after that, he went off and did other projects, apparently. But he's still, on the side, from the way he's described it, and from the way fans have described it, he has basically kept trying to get that third season, that elusive third season, up and going in some kind of form. And like I said, when he would interact with the fans online in the early to mid 2000s, talking about, his experience on the show on these various websites like Sonic Stadium, like FUS, Fans United for Sea3on, who are credited as collaborators and being one of the main reasons we got the complete series of Sonic Sea3on by Shout Factory, as well as Sonic HQ, Sonic Retro, all those places. He ended up sharing the ideas that he had planned. So what Team Season has done, since the early to mid 2000s, is they've been working on a webcomic that continues, the show, continues the series as, Ben Hurst intended it to be, and they dubbed the webcomic Season. That's SEA3, ON. And they've gone from there. And I think that's how they spelled it, make sure. Yeah. They've gone from there. And right now, because, personal lives come into play, and then working on, the animated adaptation of it, and other things as well, they do kind of interfere and they do take time away. But right now, they are currently on the 8th chapter. And if we were to go off of these chapters, as episodes, for the third season, I would say that so far, if things financially work out for them, and I believe they will, with the grace of God, that we're looking right now at 7 episodes, potentially, on the verge of becoming an animated reality. And that's what this whole Season animated is about. It's basically taking the stories that you get in the webcomic and adapting them to an extent, kind of not loosely, but a bit loose, if you will, and like I said, and adapting them into animation, so that what you're reading in the webcomic, now you'll be able to see, on the, you'll be able to see on the screen, on your computer, or on your television, if you have a smart TV, or even your phone, potentially through the YouTube app, which I think, that will be the direction they go in, when they release the first episode. And from the way things look right now, they are definitely on the verge of doing so. I mean, the fact that they released, this new scene in time for Sally Appreciation Day this past weekend, basically on Friday, the 12th, that's saying something that, to me as a fan, longtime fan, that if they're willing to show us this sneak peek of potentially one of the final scenes in the episode, it tells me that they're on the verge of being, finished, or on the verge of completing it and potentially getting ready to release it in 2022. I would say the early portion of it, like either the first few months or mostly into the spring of that year. I would say essentially around the first quarter, from what I can understand, or from what I can tell. But that's basically what they're doing, and they're working with a lot of people. They've got, they're bringing in people to work, as voice actors and actresses in studios, mini studios, if you will, to voice certain characters. They got people that match up almost identically to, let's say, Kath Sushi, who was the voice of Sally, to the late Christine Caravetta, I think. I can't pronounce the last name, who did Bunny. They're bringing in a lot of people that match up very similarly to what the original voice actors and actresses made the characters sound like in the original run. The person they got to play Sonic sounds almost identical to Jaleel White. So basically what they're doing is they're pulling out all the stops here to give us something good, something great. And even if it goes for 1 or 2 episodes, at least, to me, it's sending a message, from a dedicated fan base to all studios out there, especially mostly Sega, on all fronts, America, Japan, Europe, you name it, that this is a property of Sonic you need to continue investing in and keep your eye on, because this is something fans love about Sonic. Like, this is what, to them, created the franchise for Sonic, put that franchise on the map. This show and the comic related to it and the characters. And like I said, even if it's for 1 or 2 episodes, hopefully it'll be sending that kind of a message. Because they're putting a lot of effort and time into this to make it feel very identical, shot for shot, animation wise and all that, to the original 2-season run, on ABC. And here's the thing, season animated, Team Season, they're not the only people that have done this. I mean, look at Hazbin Hotel, look at Hellva Boss, if you will, look at Gulch, I think it's the Long Gulch thing, or whatever. These are all independent fan-funded animated projects that, were brought to life and given a chance to shine and show the world what they're about, without, a major studio behind them. And by doing so, they were able to get the attention of major distributors or semi-major distributors to come on board and help them distribute the project even further. I think Hazbin Hotel got a major streaming distributor because of their debut on YouTube with a couple of episodes. And I think Hellva Boss could be on the verge of it as well. There's a lot of, we are basically, what I'm trying to say is we are basically in an age where, as some people put it, we have independent animators, or a team of independent animators and storytellers and voice actors that are willing to come together if other fellow creative people out there, fans if you will, fundedly help them out to make the projects that they want to bring to life a reality, by helping them out even by the tiniest bit of finances, financially. Like, if you can only contribute maybe $1 to the project, that's better than nothing. So Season is not alone in this kind of situation, happening, across the board. and it probably won't be the last. And when you really think about it, I think it's projects like Season, projects like Hellva, Hazbin Hotel, the Gulch one, Blue Hilda, if you will. I think it's projects like this that are getting the attention of all the major studios out there, and it's making them contemplate, maybe we should continue certain projects that were left kind of unanswered. Like you look at X-Men and the fact that Disney has announced through Marvel Studios, animation wise, that they're doing a continuation of the original 90 series under the title of X-Men 97. You have the guys voicing Chip and Dale in the upcoming Rescue Ranger film, basically stating that the people behind the movie are calling it a comeback, not a reboot, thus in a sense confirming that we're continuing on from the original series. To me, it shows you in my honest opinion, I should say, it shows the impact that a lot of these independent, fan-oriented, fan-funded projects, are having on even the big wigs, on even the big studios, to make them realize, hey, maybe there is a profit in continuing, something from, the past 20 years ago or so. So, to me, when I look at Season, I look at them being in that same category as being an independently fan-funded, fan-oriented project that's trying to continue the legacy of a animated series. Yeah, even though for 2 seasons, that it ran, had a huge impact pop culture-wise, and made a lot of the characters like a Sally Acorn a pop culture icons. Whether people want to acknowledge that or not. I mean, you look at Power Rangers. Fans actually of Power Rangers, through their own little studios, fan-funded or whatever, independent-wise and all that, they actually get in contact with the likes of Jason David Frank and other Power Rangers alumni to do these little fan projects, oriented projects, if you will, crossovers, to help, promote maybe potential storylines from comic books or from games or whatever. And whether or not they got the blessing of, the people that own Power Rangers right now, which I think, who is it? Netflix, Saban, who owns the rights to them? I don't really know right now. But whoever owns the rights to them, they're doing it either with or without the blessing. And I think most times when they get a little darker and all that, it's without the blessing. And I think a lot of these people that have worked on Power Rangers, they're cool with doing it, because it's like, hey, you're continuing as a fan, as a group of fans, or billions of fans, or millions, thousands of fans, if you will. You're trying to continue a legacy of something that you felt had an impact on your childhood growing up, and you're trying to take it in a direction, a very creative direction that was never, available to you or anybody else back when it originally aired. A more darker, sometimes grittier direction. So you look at stuff like that. You look at, like I said, Season, and it falls into that category, because you even look at something like Animaniacs, and you look at the rating. They may have changed it by now, but you look at the rating that Hulu gave Season 2 of the Animaniacs reboot, or soft reboot, and they gave it a TV-14 rating, although I think they may have changed it to TV-PG by now. They originally, when it first aired, the second season, they gave it TV-14. And they did that because, nowadays, with a lot of these streaming platforms and all that, for artists to basically display their works, they, along with major studios, realize, hey, we can get away with more than we did when the show or these properties were originally first conceived. And now that we have a bigger, more freelanced options, in front of us. And when you look at Team Season, yeah, Season Animated, the project, yeah, it does have a lot of identicalness and familiarness, and very to the point, almost identical, like you couldn't even tell the difference between itself and the original run. At the same time, you can sense that there's a darker element, that there is going to be a more grittier, darker element to it than what was originally seen in the first 2 seasons of the original run on ABC. And that's the freedom a lot of these kind of projects and people that work on them have. You're able to do more than what, originally was limited to those that originally worked on it in the past. So overall, when you look at all these projects, like a season, and you see these projects either by major studios or independent studios, fan funded, whatever, and you see them going in directions that normally you don't think a show like that would go, or even a project like that would go, because maybe restrictions that major networks or studios would put on it, or streaming services would put on it, probably less than networks. When you start seeing them having and showing that kind of freedom with these projects, it shows you that anything is possible, that anything can be showcased in a way that it never was before. I mean, the fact that the scene that Team Season shared, Sally being upset about the fact that she thought it was over and that they'd won, that's a scene, like I said, that comes out of one of the last pages of the webcomic, where she essentially, and Crystal Maiden 77 said it best when she reviewed the issue, felt more real and it basically made her feel more real and more relatable in a sense, because here she's thinking everything was finished, everything was done, and yet it's all in that, and she's finally getting this happy ending, and suddenly it's torn away from her, and out of frustration she snaps. She essentially just snaps at the person that's always been by her side. And that person that's always been by her side, although sometimes he can be an annoyance sometimes, because even though they love each other, he can be an annoyance. He's like, look, he's basically being the voice of reason. Like, look, there's nothing you can really do when you go up against someone like a Nagas. You can't really prepare for something like that. So, it does make things a lot more interesting. And the way they ended with, them embracing in the comic and as well as in the episode potentially, it does show it's going to have a more darker, grittier tone, at least for this episode. And we'll just, have to see where they go from there afterwards. But again, that's the freedom these kind of projects have. Independently fan-funded, or even through major studios that might just premiere them on the streaming services and all that. You get a little bit more freedom than you did before. You don't have to worry about restrictions. You don't have to worry about networks or cable channels coming down upon you and saying you shouldn't have this, you shouldn't show this, or have the character do that and stuff like that. You have a little bit more freedom. You can do basically what you please, if you will. I mean, when you look at Disney Plus when they came out and they released a lot of these classic Disney afternoon shows, there's a lot of episodes that they brought back on there, with a few exceptions, that originally had not been seen for quite some time due to the sensitivity. And like I said, there are still a few exceptions, and I think those few exceptions may be altered and changed, and we might see those episodes in the near future. But still, you take a look at the fact that Bonkers, New Partners on the Block, and Fall Apart Bomb Squad, that those episodes were taken out, but now they're back in. You take a look at the episode where Monterey's mom comes back to visit, and all the buildings are shaking and falling because the mole's a fat cat, and the mole basically are shaking things up, and obviously that was taken off because of the 9/11 deal, or 9/11 sensitivity. No offense when I say that, but now they're back on there. It shows you that with a streaming service or any kind of on-demand streaming platform, you have a little bit more freedom, even when you're a major studio. So when I look at Season and I look at what they're doing here, this is something that I truly believe in, and I've gone on Patreon and I've supported them. Right now, financially, my Patreon's kind of on hold right now until things get better financially, but my supporting of them anyway. But the thing is, this is why I've contributed just $1, even if it's $1, on the Patreon, because of the fact that I believe in this project. A lot of people believe in this project, and we want to see it come to fruition, even if it's just for a few episodes, and that's it. Because we know even with a few episodes, it sends a message of, hey, Sega, you need to invest in this. This is what put this character and the franchise literally on the map. You need to really put some investment in it and see where you can take it yourselves. And hopefully maybe that might be the message that, you know, gets sent, and hopefully it's a message Sega on all fronts will listen to and be like, okay, there is something here that we could probably work with. But that's why Season is around. That's why it exists. And that's why it's, you know, supported by a lot of fans, and why you're potentially going to be seeing the first episode a lot sooner than expected. You know, and overall that's what it is. And you know how it relates to a lot of other things very similar to it. But what are your guys' thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere, which hopefully you have. Like the video, check out the Teespring store, check me out at BW Rose's discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out on BW Rose's on VENMO to catch some, you know, basically to catch, you know, some content you can't get anywhere else, you know, not even here on YouTube due to content deals. Also check me out at BW Roses on Patreon for the $1 or $3 tier, and also check me out here on Venmo if you want to help donate there as well. But that's basically what, in my opinion, what Season is. Thought I'd just come on here with a little bit of light that I have, let you guys know about that. And what do you guys, again, think overall? Let me know in the comments and the live chat as well, and I am out.